Welcome. We're with TBI Analytics podcast, where we interview people that have some kind of knowledge or experience within the traumatic brain injury space, and that can give some kind of sharing, if you will, to the audience that is with us. And today I have the honor to be with Darryl Isaacs, the Hammer from
Kentucky, yeah.
Right?
Louisville, Kentucky, yeah.
So to be exact, right?
Yeah.
I love that city. The saying, if you will, the name,
Yeah.
you know, how many people have to explain that? But we're here at the CSIMS conference where we're talking about, we have actually an industrial medicine track where we're talking about workers' comp type of cases, you're injured on a job, but we also have a personal injury track as well as a traumatic brain injury track, which is one of the reasons why Darryl came all the way out here to be here at San Diego at the Lowe's here in Coronado Bay. It's beautiful. And thank you for being spontaneous and taking this interview with me. And
Sure.
Welcome.
Well,
Darryl.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, Darryl is unique in the sense that he is a well-known attorney, the Hammer out there in Kentucky. You'll know by his billboards everywhere. And he is known as that, you know, trucking attorney, the big accident cases. He's going to bring the hammer on these defense insurance claims and companies. So, but along the way, we had to experience what it's like to be a plaintiff, if you will, in his own personal injury tragic incident, where I'm going to have him explain, you know, just what you went through, because I kind of joke and say, you know, I know it's one thing to be a lawyer for these people, but it's one thing to actually be a plaintiff as well, and to really have that compassion now for your own clients and that are experiencing these same symptoms and things that you had to go through. So share with us, when was this incident? Take us through what happened to you.
So it was January 19th, 2015. I went for a bike ride. It had been cold for a couple months, so it was the first time I got out. It was Martin Luther King Day, and my father had just had surgery, and we were all at the hospital, and we're taking shifts, so I said, I'll come back to night shift. So I went home. I thought I'd get a ride in for about an hour and a half, and left and told my family I'd be back in an hour, and I came back a month later. So I literally was finishing my ride, and I was stopped waiting to turn to yield the right of way, and you know, a 19-year-old kid speeding, didn't see me, and hit me. And, you know, make a long story short, broke my neck. I got scalped. I had 12 surgeries, just a lot of trauma, and I had a brain injury. But, and so my life turned upside down that day. Before, I always represented people that were hurt, and then I became in their shoes.
Wow. What an experience. And how long ago was that?
It'll be 10 years this January.
10 years. Wow. And still, you know, going through some remnants of that. And of course, that's forever.
Right.
What that you went through. And I think I heard that you normally wear your helmet, and on that day, you decided not to?
I wore my helmet every time, because I'm always telling my kids, wear your helmet, wear your helmet. And it was cold, so I put a toboggan on, and my helmet wouldn't fit. So I thought, today I'll just wear my toboggan. But it was a blessing, because I was scalped, and my toboggan kept my scalp at least on top of my head.
Yes.
And it was later determined by a couple medical experts, had I had the helmet, I would have probably been killed, because I had 2 impacts.
Sure.
And if it didn't come off completely. So everything happened for a reason.
Wow. I mean, that's...
I would have never guessed it, but, you know, I'm very lucky.
You are. And, you know, God winks all over the place, that's for sure.
Sure.
And that's what, you know, you just said a saying that I always say is everything, you know, works out for the right reasons.
Yes.
And there's something is always meant to be, whether you feel at the time that that's perceived as bad or good.
Yes.
I'm a big proponent of everything is experience in this world, and how is it that you react to that experience being brought at you is really how you can, react and get through it. But yeah, so, to really take your mind through something like that. I mean, you're supposed to be here, obviously.
Yes.
So you know how you say, I wasn't supposed to be here. No, you were supposed to be here in this, and that's obvious. You were supposed to go through this experience. And who knew, right? And now you're here to live and tell what is it like to go through something like that and, you know, come out of it so well like you have.
Right. I mean, you know, in life it's funny because we all grow up and we're always saying, I wish I was that, I wish I was that. Just an example, like, you know, my father was 6'4", his father was 6'2", my mom's father was short, his father was short. Growing up, I never said I want to be taller, but the day of the accident, I had 2 impacts, and the first I went and busted the windshield. And the way they explained it, if I was 3 inches taller, I would have been dead on spot because my neck would have snapped from the windshield bar.
Wow.
Or whatever. So,
and mind you, the listeners in our audience, how tall do you stand?
I'm 5'6".
5'6".
On a good day.
Exactly.
I grew wide instead of tall. But, you know, my whole life, it's like, you know, you just adjust and you adapt, and there's no perfect situation. So I look at it, I would have never asked for this accident, but it has made me a better everything because now I understand what my clients are going through. I understand and really appreciate life. I understand that, oh my gosh. And even being here at this event, it was amazing because there's so many people that help people like me with injuries. I mean, there's so many brain injuries out there and they need help. So I love it when this legal and medical community come and you all help people. That's why I want to be a part of it. It's like everybody's heroes, and I want to be with them.
Yeah, no. And then you have anybody you ever want to talk to about what you're even going through.
Sure.
Yeah, and get some advice and how you can help your own clients within that. But very educational and all of that. But I know you speak well on how, you know, just the general audience looks and perceives who we are, right? And I wanted you to expand a little bit more on your experience on that and how you can relate now with other people on how we are so judged, if you will. If we think we are judged, but really, do you think we're really judged?
Every day, every second. Okay. Listen, and I know I spoke to this, and here's the thing. You know, 25, 30 years ago, I read the Jerry Spence book, How to Argue and Win Every Time, and there was a sentence in there that resonated with me.
Yeah.
The most powerful person in the room is the most vulnerable. I was always the most vulnerable, not by choice. I was always last, or I flunked the bar twice, or I failed so many times in life, but it makes you work harder. And so instead of being embarrassed, I embrace it. And even my lecture now, I tell you my faults. I tell you everything because I would rather be honest, and then if you want to judge me. But the last time I checked, no one's perfect. Right. So if I can put myself out there, maybe others can. And it was interesting. I was telling someone this. After I spoke, I had a lot of people come up and had a lot of positive things, which was rewarding because whenever I speak, if I get one person that's impressed or I make an impression, then it's worth it. But there was this doctor who was the last person I talked to at the happy hour. I think I even saw you. I was leaving and he ran after. And he said, your talk inspired me, but I have to tell you, I have a brain injury myself. And I said, oh, well, tell me about it. And he said, I'm embarrassed because I'm a doctor and I don't want my patients to know. And I don't want my friends to know. So what I do is I choose not to put myself out there. I choose not to talk about it. I don't want people to know. And I said, why? And he said, because I don't want to be judged. And I said, we all get judged. I said, you would be the most powerful person in the room if you shared that. And you should share that because then you can inspire others.
Well, and you're relatable because we're all feeling insecure in some way about what we've done, what past we've had, whatever, right? You, like you said, nobody is perfect. In fact, we are perfect. That's who we are, is imperfectly perfect. And but yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And wow, how inspiring you are to this doctor, to be vulnerable.
Right. Well, and he helped me because it made me reinforce I need to keep putting myself out there. Even if every time I talk, I feel like I'm humiliating myself. I mean, I'm crying, I'm doing all this, but this is therapy for me too. Sharing my journey, knowing there's other people going through what I'm going through, and if it helps them, it helps me.
Absolutely. That's
So,
very inspiring for you to see it that way. And as I've always felt is, I've always worn my heart in my sleeve as well.
Sure.
Just, I think females have a way of doing that. But I would absolutely agree. I know in this world of legal and medical, those egos are pretty up here, right?
Yes.
And if we can just tame them a little bit more and just know that it's okay to be vulnerable and to let that heart out a little bit, you will get the jury to actually like you even more.
Well, I
and
think
relate
being
with you
real,
more and
yes.
be real as a human. You're a human. Now you're not that, oh, well, I can't relate with them because they're a doctor or they're a lawyer. And it really does box you out. I mean, me being neither one, as a juror, that's how I would see it. And so
Sure.
you have to be vulnerable. And Jerry Spence is the king of teaching that.
He is.
I read that same book before even getting into this space. And then what do you know? I'm in this. And it's
What was so refreshing because, I mean, I do a ton of public speaking, but I still tell everybody, nervous, I'm scared, y'all are looking at me. I'm not the tallest, I'm not the most handsome, I don't have the best body, I know you're judging me. I'm frightened. But they love when I'm honest. And even when I went to law school, I'll never forget one of the first weeks, one of the professors said, you can learn these fancy legal words, but most jurors won't understand them. So I made up my mind, well, I don't know them to begin with, so why learn them? And so, like, instead of saying subsequent, I'll say after. I just don't ever see myself like all the really smart, polished attorneys. I'm just Darryl.
Just Darryl.
For me, all I got to do is be the best version of me, and that's good enough.
Yeah. And your clients will magnetize towards you.
Yeah.
As you know, things happen for a reason. So
Absolutely.
those clients are in your door for a reason, and there's nothing else you need to do is just be yourself.
Right.
And that's all. And I know the act that many put on because they think they got to save face or show a face. And boy, you can see through it. You really can. And that transparency makes you trustworthy. Absolutely. And what more can you want when you're going through something like this for your clients to be able to understand what you're going through? So beautiful. And I picked up your book. I see this here, Build Your Billion-Dollar Law Firm. I love it. You've taken even something that's so tragic that could have turned you sideways down a whole other direction, but you embraced it and you became a story in a sense for yourself. And now look at you, build your billion-dollar law firm. I did it and you can too. So cool that you've done this, and tell us a little bit more how you're helping firms with this.
Well, I love history, and I don't want to pretend I'm this big Shakespeare and I study that. I can't even understand when I read it. But one thing, Russ Herman, a very famous trial attorney, told me 30 plus years ago, you reverse the theme. And he started quoting Shakespeare. So that's the most I know about it. But the way I interpret it and the way my life is, I take my negatives and make them positives. Like if I'm going to talk to a jury, if I don't tell them the truth about my case, the other side does, I lose my credibility.
100%.
So the best thing I can do is be honest and credible and admit my faults. There was 121 in my law school graduation class. I was 101 out of 120, one top 100. I was the only one that took the bar 3 times.
Right.
I tell everybody that because it delayed me, but it didn't stop me from being successful. Yes, it's embarrassing, but I can't get around it. Yeah, and so now when everybody, goes on and on, I wasn't top of my class, and you don't have to be, but I'm real, and that's all I know how to do. And there's so many attorneys, so much smarter, better, and everything. But what I found is I connect well with people.
Yeah.
And that's what helped. And so the reason I wrote the book is, after my accident, I started these mastermind groups, and, we've helped so many law firms. And a lot of them, don't really know how to brand, how to market, and that's all I've ever done. But I always brand myself, and so I've just shared it. And a gentleman named Chris Vanderkay that, would help me, and he's a writer. He basically wrote the book. He would follow me around and watch all these presentations, and he's like, "We got to do a book." And he started writing a book about all the lectures. I never really realized it, but then, some people have read it, and I've had many lawyers go, "Oh my God," and it's helping them. So I'm ecstatic if it helps them.
Yeah.
But I'm telling them, I'm not a scholar. I mean, this
Right.
is just real world experience. And I talk about my flaws all the time. I don't teach from, no one wants to hear how great you are, but if I'm willing to own up on all my mistakes, but if my mistake will make you not make the same mistake, then it's a win-win. And so that's what the book's behind.
You're a parent.
Yes.
Well, you just said it.
I
right?
try to be. I'm not the best parent according to my kids, but
We're all trying there. But that's the perfect, resemblance. There is, you're a guide. You've done it before.
Yeah.
You can't do it. They've got to experience their life too. But you want to save them from having to go through those struggles.
well, and I was a help caught parent for a while, but my dad was great. He never stopped me from falling. He picked me up when I failed. But it was funny. I was telling someone earlier. I was driving, and I was with one of my children, and someone actually from California, another attorney, called, and I put her on speakerphone because I didn't want it. But I said, "Hey, don't talk about attorney-client privilege because I got my son in here." And they're like, "No, I'm just calling to see, will you come speak at our event, yada yada." And I said, "Oh, sure. I always do that." And I said, "Let me call you later and we'll work out the details." As soon as I hung up, my kid looked at me and goes, "Why would they want to hear you speak?" And
I love it.
And I just thought, I was like, I don't know. I've started a company that's done a couple $1 billion. And then he looked at me and he goes, "I just see you as dad. I never see you as that." And so it hit me. It's not that I'm a bad parent, but my kids are going to do what they want. They're not going to listen to me anyway. But they'll listen to other parents.
Yeah.
So, again, you do the best you can. And
Give them that room. Give them the wings.
they got to make their own mistake. And, trust me, it's hard.
Exactly.
But my dad let me make all my mistakes. Too many, in fact. But
Yeah.
it helped me grow.
Absolutely. Well, you definitely have turned lemons into limoncello.
Limoncello, I love. Yeah, I've been to Italy. I love limoncello. That's a sweet thing.
Oh yeah, very sweet, very sweet. You got to have that. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Guest speaker at this event. It's awesome for you to join us here and tell your story. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. We'll see you again next.
All right, sounds good.
All right.